Most hunters are overpaying for accuracy. They will never use and ignoring rifles that shoot tighter groups at a third of the cost. That is not opinion. That is what happens when you let marketing decide what sits in your gun safe instead of ballistics. Right now, there are rifles sitting on dealer shelves for $400 or less that will outshoot bolt actions costing $1,000 or more. Not by a little, by a margin that would embarrass most shooters at the range if they ran them side by side on paper. The reason you have not heard about them is simple. Nobody makes money telling you that the cheaper option is the better option. But that is exactly what the data says. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why, exactly which rifles to look at, and exactly what the expensive brands do not want you thinking about. Here is what most people get wrong about rifle accuracy. And it is such a basic misunderstanding that it poisons every buying decision after it. They believe that price equals precision. They think that if a rifle costs $1,200, it must shoot better than one that costs $400. And on paper, in a catalog, that makes sense. More money, better materials, better performance. Except that is not how rifle manufacturing works anymore. Not even close. The technology that makes a barrel accurate, the CNC machining that cuts a chamber to spec, the button rifling or hammer forging, that creates consistent bore dimensions. None of that is exclusive to premium price tags in 2024. The machines that cut a Bergara barrel are not fundamentally different from the machines that cut a barrel for a rifle at half the price. The tolerances are so tight across the industry now that the gap between a $400 rifle and a $1,200 rifle has almost nothing to do with mechanical accuracy. What you are paying for at the higher price is finish. You are paying for a prettier stock. You are paying for a name engraved on the receiver. You are paying for the feeling of owning something expensive. And none of that, not one bit of it, makes a bullet fly straighter. Let me say that differently so it really lands. If you put a $400 rifle in a lead sled, remove the human variable entirely, and shoot 5-shot groups at 100 yards with quality ammunition, you will see sub-MOA performance from rifles that most hunters walk right past at the gun counter. The rifle is not the weak link. It has not been the weak link for over a decade. The weak link is the shooter. The weak link is the trigger pull. The weak link is the scope mount. The weak link is the ammunition choice. And most of the time, the weak link is the guy behind the gun who spent all his budget on the rifle and had nothing left for proper glass, proper practice, or proper load development. That is the real problem the industry does not talk about. When you overspend on the rifle itself, you underspend on everything else. And everything else is what actually determines whether your shot connects or not. Now let me walk you through some specific rifles that prove this point. Not in theory, in practice, at the range and in the field. The first rifle every hunter in this price range should know about is the Ruger American. And I know some of you just rolled your eyes, because you have seen this rifle sitting in the budget rack at every sporting goods store in the country. It does not look special. The stock is plain polymer. The finish is not going to win any beauty contests, and that is exactly why people pass it by. They pick it up, feel the weight, compare it to the walnut-stocked rifle next to it, and they assume cheaper means worse. But what they are not seeing is what actually matters. The Ruger American comes with a free-floating barrel from the factory. That means the barrel does not make contact with the stock at any point along its length. Why does that matter? Because when a barrel heats up during firing, it expands. If it is touching the stock, that expansion creates pressure points that change with every shot. The barrel vibrates differently on shot 1 than it does on shot 5. Your group opens up not because the rifle is inaccurate, but because the harmonics are inconsistent. A free-floating barrel eliminates that variable. The barrel vibrates the same way every single time regardless of temperature, regardless of how many rounds you have put through it in a session. That is a feature you used to only find on rifles costing $700 or $800. Ruger put it on a rifle that retails under $400. On top of that, The Ruger American uses a power bedding system that locks the action into the stock with a solid block of aluminum. That means the action does not shift under recoil. It stays in exactly the same position shot after shot. That kind of bedding used to require a trip to a gunsmith and another $200 or $300 out of your pocket. Now it comes standard on a rifle that most people dismiss because the stock is not fancy enough. And the marksman trigger on this rifle is adjustable down to 3 pounds right out of the box. You do not need to buy an aftermarket trigger. You do not need to send it off to get worked on. You adjust it with a simple wrench, set it where you want it, and you have a trigger pull that is cleaner than what comes standard on rifles twice the price. I have personally watched this rifle shoot half Moa groups with factory Hornady ammunition, not handloads, not match-grade custom rounds, factory hunting ammo off the shelf. If that does not make you question what you are actually paying for when you buy an expensive rifle, nothing will. Another rifle that belongs in this conversation, and one that a lot of experienced shooters already know about but newer hunters almost never consider, is the Savage Axis II. Now, the original Savage Axis had a reputation for being bare bones, and it was. But the Axis II fixed the biggest complaint anyone ever had about the platform, which was the trigger. Savage put their Aku trigger on this rifle, and that changed everything. The Aku trigger is not just a marketing name. It is a genuinely different trigger design that uses a secondary safety lever built into the trigger blade itself. What that means for you as a shooter is that you get a crisp, clean break with no creep and no over-travel at a pull weight. You can adjust yourself without any tools. A bad trigger is the single fastest way to ruin an otherwise accurate rifle. When a trigger has creep, meaning it moves before it breaks, your brain starts trying to anticipate the shot. You flinch, you push the rifle, you pull your shot low and left if you are right-handed, low and right if you are left-handed. It is the most common accuracy problem in all of shooting, and it has nothing to do with the barrel or the chamber. It is the trigger. Savage solved that problem at a price point that puts the Axis II well under $400 in most chamberings. The barrel on the Axis II is also carbon steel with a proper button-rifled bore. Button rifling creates an extremely smooth and consistent bore surface. The rifling marks are uniform from the chamber all the way to the muzzle. That consistency is what gives you consistent bullet spin, which gives you consistent flight, which gives you consistent point of impact at distance. The Axis II will not win any long-range precision competitions against a custom-built rifle. That is not what it is designed for. But inside 400 yards, which is the distance at which 95% of all game animals in North America are taken, this rifle will do everything you need it to do, and it will do it reliably for years. The action is smooth enough, the feeding is reliable, and the accuracy is there. What more do you actually need from a hunting rifle? Seriously, ask yourself that question, because the answer for most hunters is nothing. You need nothing more than what this rifle gives you. If you are finding value in this kind of straight talk about gear, the kind that saves you money instead of costing you more, take a second and hit that subscribe button. This channel is built for hunters who want to get better through knowledge, not through spending. That is what we do here. No sponsorship hype, no brand loyalty, just what works and why. Now let me talk about a rifle that flies almost completely under the radar, and it might be the best value in this entire conversation. The Howa 1500. Most American hunters have never even heard of Howa. It is a Japanese manufacturer, and their 1500 action has been around for decades. It is the same action that Weatherby used in their Vanguard series for years. Think about that for a second. Weatherby, a company known for premium rifles and premium pricing, chose the Howa 1500 action as the foundation for one of their most popular lines. That should tell you something about the quality of the engineering. The Howa 1500 barrel is hammer forged, which is a manufacturing process. where a mandrel with the rifling pattern is inserted into the barrel blank, and then the barrel is hammered around it by massive hydraulic presses. What that produces is a barrel with extremely uniform bore dimensions, work-hardened steel that resists wear, and a smooth interior finish that reduces copper fouling. Less fouling means more consistent accuracy over a longer string of shots before you need to clean. That matters in the field, because you do not always have time or ability to clean a barrel in the middle of a hunt. A hammer-forged barrel holds its accuracy longer between cleanings. Period. The Howa 1500 also comes with a two-stage trigger called the HACT trigger, which stands for Howa Actuator Controlled Trigger. It has a light take-up stage followed by a clean break. Two-stage triggers are preferred by a lot of precision shooters, because that initial take-up stage lets you prep the trigger and settle into the shot before the final break. It gives you more control, more predictability, and that translates directly into tighter groups and more confidence behind the rifle. You can find barreled Howa 1500 actions without a stock for well under $400, and then drop them into a quality aftermarket stock for another 100 or so. Or you can buy them as complete rifles from several importers at right around that $400 mark. Either way, you are getting a rifle that competes with guns costing 2 and 3 times as much. And I am not saying competes in a general sense. I mean on paper, at the range, measured in actual group sizes. One of the most overlooked rifles in this entire price bracket, and the one that surprises people the most when they actually shoot it, is the Mossberg Patriot. Mossberg is known for shotguns. Everybody knows the 500. Everybody knows the 590. Their bolt-action rifle line does not get the attention it deserves. And that is a shame because the Patriot is a genuinely excellent hunting rifle. It comes with what Mossberg calls their lightning bolt action trigger, or LBA. This trigger is adjustable from 2 to 7 pounds. At the lower setting, it breaks as clean as triggers found on rifles in the $600 to $800 range. The fluted bolt is smooth and fast to cycle, which matters when you need a follow-up shot on an animal that is moving. The barrel is free-floated. The stock has a comfortable palm swell, and the whole package comes in at a weight that makes it easy to carry all day in rough terrain without feeling like you are lugging around a fence post. But here is the thing about the Patriot that most people miss. Mossberg offers it in a spiral fluted barrel version in several calibers. And spiral fluting does two things that matter. First, it reduces barrel weight without reducing barrel stiffness. A lighter barrel is easier to carry and easier to hold steady offhand. Second, the fluting increases surface area, which helps the barrel dissipate heat faster. A cooler barrel is a more consistent barrel. Those are real functional advantages, not cosmetic upgrades, and they come standard on a rifle that sits in the $350 to $400 range, depending on caliber and configuration. That is difficult to beat. Now I want to shift gears slightly and talk about something that most budget rifle buyers get completely wrong, and it costs them more accuracy than anything else they could possibly do. They buy a $400 rifle and then put a $70 scope on it, and all that mechanical accuracy the rifle is capable of. All those tight tolerances and clean triggers and free-floating barrels, it all goes to waste because the glass sitting on top cannot hold a zero. A cheap scope will shift its point of impact with temperature changes. It will shift under recoil. The turrets will not track accurately. The reticle will not be sharp enough to place precisely on target at distance. You are essentially putting a blindfold on an otherwise perfectly capable rifle and then blaming the rifle when you miss. Do not do that. If you save $400 or $500 by buying a budget rifle instead of a premium one, take at least half of that savings and put it into your optic. A Vortex Diamondback Tactical, a Leupold VX Freedom, a Primary Arms SLX. These are scopes in the $200 to $300 range that have clear glass, reliable tracking, and solid construction. Pair one of those with any of the rifles I have talked about today, and you have a setup that will honestly outperform what most hunters carry into the field, including guys who spent $1,500 on their rig. And while we are talking about things people get wrong, let me hit on ammunition for a minute, because this is another area where hunters sabotage themselves constantly. They buy a perfectly capable rifle, put decent glass on it, and then feed it whatever was cheapest at the store. Here is what you need to understand. Every rifle has a preference. The chamber dimensions, the bore dimensions, the rifling twist rate, they all interact with specific bullet weights and specific powder charges in ways that produce different results. One rifle might shoot Hornady American whitetail in 150 grain like a laser and scatter Federal Power Shock in the same weight all over the target. Another rifle from the same manufacturer might do the exact opposite. The only way to find out what your rifle likes is to buy 3 or 4 different brands and bullet weights and shoot them from a stable rest at 100 yards. Keep the groups. Measure them. Compare them. The ammunition that groups the tightest is the ammunition your rifle wants to eat. And once you find it, buy a case of it and do not switch. Consistency is everything in accuracy. Every variable you eliminate brings your point of impact closer to your point of aim. The rifle eliminated most of the mechanical variables for you at the factory. Your job is to eliminate the rest, something else worth understanding is the concept of practical accuracy versus bench accuracy. Bench accuracy is what the rifle can do when it is clamped in a vise or a lead sled with all human error removed. Practical accuracy is what the rifle can do in your hands in the field under real conditions. Cold fingers, elevated heart rate, an awkward shooting position because the only rest you have is a fallen log in your backpack. That is where the shot happens. And in that moment, the difference between a $400 rifle and a $1,200 rifle is functionally zero. Both are more accurate than the human holding them. The rifle is not the limiting factor. You are. And that is not an insult, that is just physics, the best investment you can make after buying a quality budget rifle and a decent scope is ammunition for practice. Get to the range. Shoot from positions that mimic field conditions. Shoot from kneeling. Shoot from sitting. Shoot off a pack. Shoot with sticks. Build your fundamentals so that when the moment comes, you are not thinking about the rifle. You are thinking about the shot, because the rifle already did its job at the factory. Now it is your turn. Let me bring up one more rifle that deserves a place in this discussion, and it is one that has been turning heads quietly for the last couple of years. The CVA Cascade. CVA is a company most people associate with muzzle loaders, not centerfire bolt actions. But the Cascade changed that conversation fast. The reason is the barrel. CVA partnered with Bergara to produce the barrels for the Cascade. And Bergara is one of the most respected barrel makers in the world. Their barrels are used on precision rifles costing well over $1,000. And yet here they are, sitting on a rifle that retails for around $400. The Cascade also features a crisp, adjustable trigger, a threaded muzzle for suppressor or brake attachment, and a stock that actually has some thought put into the ergonomics. The cheek weld is consistent. The grip angle is comfortable. The length of pull works for a wide range of body types. It feels like a rifle that should cost more than it does, and it shoots like one too. The threaded muzzle is worth spending a moment on because it opens up a significant advantage that a lot of hunters still are not taking full advantage of. Attaching a muzzle brake to your hunting rifle reduces felt recoil by anywhere from 30 to 50%, depending on the design. Less recoil means less flinch anticipation. Less flinch means better trigger control. Better trigger control means a tighter shot. It also means you can spot your own shot through the scope, because the rifle does not jump off target when it fires. Being able to see your bullet impact in real time lets you make an immediate follow-up shot if needed without losing the animal in your optic. That is a practical, tangible field advantage that comes from a $50 muzzle brake bolted onto a $400 rifle. Total investment, $450 for a setup that gives you better shot-to-shot performance than a bare muzzle rifle costing 3 times as much. The math does not lie. And if you are someone who hunts in areas where a suppressor is legal, that threaded muzzle becomes even more valuable. A suppressor does not just reduce noise. It reduces felt recoil even further. It eliminates muzzle blast that can spook other animals in the area. And it protects your hearing, which is something that gets overlooked way too often in the hunting community. Years of shooting without adequate hearing protection add up. A suppressed rifle on a budget platform is one of the smartest setups a hunter can build today, and the CVA Cascade comes ready for it right out of the box. Now I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. You are thinking, sure, these rifles are accurate, but will they last? Will they hold up over years of use? Will they still shoot well after 1,000 rounds, 2,000 rounds? And the answer is yes. Steels used in modern budget rifles are not inferior steels. They are the same grades of chromoly and carbon steel used across the industry. Button-rifled and hammer-forged barrels are durable by nature. The actions are machined on the same types of CNC equipment that produce higher-priced actions. The difference is not in the quality of the metal. The difference is in the finishing, the branding, and the margin the manufacturer builds into the price. You are not paying for a better rifle when you buy expensive. You are paying for a more expensive experience of buying a rifle. And I get it. There is something satisfying about pulling a beautifully blued, walnut-stocked rifle out of a case. It feels premium. It looks premium. But that feeling does not make the bullet fly any straighter. And if your goal is to be a more effective hunter, more lethal, more consistent, more confident in the field, then your money is better spent on the tools that actually improve your performance rather than the ones that just look good in photos. Here is the system I recommend to anyone who asks me how to build the most effective hunting setup on a reasonable budget. Start with one of the rifles I have talked about today. Ruger American, Savage Axis II, Howa 1500, Mossberg Patriot, or CVA Cascade. Any of them will do the job. Pick the one that feels best in your hands and is available in the caliber you want. Then spend $200 to $300 on a quality scope from a reputable mid-tier brand. Then spend $50 on a set of quality scope rings, or a one-piece mount. Then buy 4 or 5 boxes of different factory ammunition and find out which one your rifle shoots best. Then take the rest of your budget, whatever you saved by not buying the $1,200 rifle, and spend it on range time. Shoot more, then shoot again. Build your positions, build your trigger discipline, learn to read wind at distance, learn to estimate range without a rangefinder. Get so familiar with your rifle that operating it becomes automatic, and the only thing you are focused on is the animal and the shot. That is what separates a good hunter from a great one. It is not the price tag on the rifle. It is the hours behind it. It is the understanding of what the rifle can do and what you need to do to let it do its job. A $400 rifle in the hands of a disciplined shooter who has put in the work will outperform a $2,000 rifle in the hands of someone who bought it last week and sighted it in once, every single time. That is not even a debate. That is just the reality of how marksmanship works. If this way of thinking makes sense to you, if you would rather build skill than collect expensive gear, drop a comment below and let me know which of these rifles you have shot or which one you are considering. This community is built around hunters who think for themselves and make decisions based on results, not brand loyalty. That is what we are about here. And if you have not already, hit that like button. It helps this kind of content reach more hunters who need to hear it instead of another ad for a rifle they do not need. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one rifle from this video. Just one. Take it to the range with 3 or 4 different types of ammunition. Shoot real groups from a stable rest. Measure them. Find the load your rifle loves. Then take that combination and practice from field positions. until you can put a bullet inside a 4-inch circle at 200 yards from any position. You might actually shoot from in the field. Kneeling, sitting, off sticks, off a pack. That is the standard, not bench accuracy, field accuracy, because that is where it counts. And when you can do that consistently with a $400 rifle, you will understand something that most hunters never figure out. The rifle was never the problem. It was never the answer either. The answer is you, your skill, your discipline, your understanding of what actually makes a bullet go where you want it to go. Master that, and the price tag on your rifle becomes the least important thing you carry into the woods.